Back here on HQ Spotlight, the Suns and the Rockets making a big splash. Here are the trade details. KD now going to the Rockets. In exchange for Kevin Durant, the Suns get a package that includes Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, the number 10 overall pick in this year's draft, and 5 second-round picks. So with that trade to Houston, Kevin Durant has now completed the rainbow of jerseys. Well, okay, sort of. I have a problem with this graphic because OKC accounts for two of the colors in the rainbow, in orange and blue. So I don't know, whatever. Maybe he's completed the rainbow or something like it in terms of his jerseys. But Kevin Durant was actually at Fanatics Fest when he got traded and found out this information, or at least that's what we saw, right? And Kay Adams asked KD about how all of this went down at Fanatics Fest. Take a listen.
It was unbelievable, and then I watched it, and honestly, every tooth is showing. You were smiling. What did that feel like? How do you feel? How happy are you?
You know, when people could just hang your career in a balance like that and just choose what they want to do with your career, it's a nerve-wracking feeling, but being able to kind of dictate what you want to do and then being with a team that values you, and I'm looking forward to it.
Kevin, people are going to hold on to that dictate what you want to do. Did you have a hand in this?
Most definitely.
How much of it?
I mean, they asked me where I wanted to go. Some of my destinations, I gave it to them, and here we are.
All right, so KD going to the Rockets and having a little bit of a say in where he wants to go, according to what he says. Bill and John are back with us here. So, gentlemen, we want you to grade the trade. John, I'll come to you first because you're giving it an A, right?
Yeah, I am. Bill loves grades, by the way. I can't wait till we get to Bill. Okay, so I do. I like this for the Rockets. Bill and I talked about this previously, where if I were the Rockets, I probably would have just left it alone through the trade deadline just because they were the number 2 seed last year and they have such a young core. But what they did here, I love because they didn't have to give up a ton. Yeah, they gave up Jalen Green, but he's a high volume scorer. And I think like if the switch is Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks for Kevin Durant and the number, I'm okay with that. Like they give up the number 10 pick, but they didn't give up the 2027 Suns first round pick that they have in the future or the 2029 Suns first round pick in the future. And on top of that, they didn't give up Jabari Smith. They didn't give up Reed Shepherd, no Tari Eason, who I'm a big fan of. So on the whole, this is really good for the Rockets. And I think that makes them instant contenders. They were already contenders, but this really levels them up, Jacqueline, because what's one of the main things that they were missing last year? They were missing a closer. Well, boom, Kevin Durant has that covered. Now you've got a guy to knock down big shots late in games. And on top of that, you don't lose anything defensively. You actually gain. He's an excellent defender. He can guard 1 through 5, so he's going to fit right in with Ime Udoka. So now, look, they still have to figure out what they're going to do, who's going to be their 5th starter. Maybe they've got some other designs on bringing in some other guys. But just from the Rockets' perspective, didn't have to give up a ton. You get one of the greatest players in NBA history.
John is right. I love doing grades, in part because it's an incomplete. We're the professors, and the student gives you an incomplete paper, and we have to sort of guess how this paper is going to be finished. I went B plus. John's a lot more positive than I am, and maybe it's the memory of the Paul George trade with the Thunder that's in my mind. We all said the Clippers won this trade. They dominated. Well, I know we'll get to the Suns in a second. Kevin Durant has hardly won a couple playoff series since he left Golden State. He is approaching 40 years old. He's an amazing player if he's durable, he's on the floor. And I think the point that most swayed me to just a little bit lower grade came from my friend Jared Greenberg, who works for NBA TV and the artist formerly known as the NBA on TNT. And he pointed out, and just has stuck with me, that you have now, because Durant has arrived, created a scenario where you have to win an NBA championship as the goal, right? That's the goal over the next, let's say, 2, maybe 3 years, probably 2 years. That's a lot to put on a young team that you could have incubated. You could have been patient. You could have taken the Sam Presti approach and just slowly let this thing grow. We don't know how good Jalen Green's going to be. So I like the ambition. I understand what Houston's doing, but that's a lot to ask of Amen Thompson, these other young guys. Now you need to understand to be able to carry the weight and part, and you have Durant to help, of the expectations of being an NBA championship level team. If Durant is able to be healthy and help these guys get over the top, great, amazing. I was wrong. It's an A. But we've seen this story in Brooklyn. We've seen this story in Phoenix. Maybe it's a different situation, but there is not a track record of Kevin Durant going to places that didn't win 73 games the year before and win titles. And so I think jury's still out.
All right, so Bill gives it a B+ for the Rockets. John gives them an A. Before we go over to the Suns side of things, want to take a look at the Rockets' new potential starting 5 and what that could look like. So we have Fred VanVleet, Amen Thompson, KD, Jabari Smith, and Sengun. So when you're looking at this, and John, I know you already said you think this does help them become a contender in the West. But Bill, what do you think? Do you think this is a potential starting lineup here that can build upon that 50-win season that we saw last season and make them that much more of a contender in the West?
Yeah, it's a great starting five. I mean, the other thing that's really interesting is, as we just discussed earlier with the Thunder, is this could be the right move and you could still not do anything because the West is really, really hard. Look, Şengün is young Jokic, so maybe, and he's already great, continues to develop. It's a great starting five. I think my level of hesitancy, again, just comes from the fact that instead of this being on a sort of slow boil, slow cook, take your time, it's instant championship now. You put Durant into this mix and you have to win. But yes, on the face of it, that's a really good starting five. And Durant, as John noted, is going to offer the thing that they didn't have, and that's a closer. They did not have somebody late in games, and they played late in games that mattered because they were a surprise 2 seed in the West this year. They didn't have someone they could go to and go get us buckets the way that Denver has Jokic, that the Thunder have SGA, the way that the Pacers had Halliburton. You go around the league, they have that now. So I do like the starting five, and for next year, big if Durant can be healthy, it could go well.
So when we graded the Rockets side of things, Bill, you were a little bit tougher on Houston, but now if we go and grade the Suns, John, you're the teacher that's like kind of being a little bit more stern here, giving it a C when it comes to the Suns side of things. Tell us why.
Yeah, I upgraded it to a C because I felt like a D+ was a little too harsh. Look, they have seven of their 10 players that are under contract, Jacqueline, are shooting guards, right? Like Devin Booker, you're putting Jalen Green next to him. He has huge upside. He's only 23 years old. He's a prolific scorer, but he's also hugely inconsistent. Super high ceiling, really low floor with that guy. And you're putting him next to Devin Booker. So now you've got 2 really high usage rate, 2 really high volume shooters in your starting backcourt, neither of whom play defense. They didn't get Jabari Smith, as I mentioned. They didn't get Tari Eason, who I love. They didn't get Reed Shepherd. They didn't get any of their draft picks back, the 2027 that I mentioned, or the 2029 first-round pick, that if you're going to be bad in a Western Conference where there's 12 teams that have designs on making it into the postseason, and you are not one of them, you, by definition, essentially, you are tanking. Well, it would certainly help to have your draft picks back if you're going to do something like that. So, yeah, I don't love this. I suspect that there are more moves to come here because they need something other than shooting guards. They need somebody to play defense. They need a center. But just on the face of it right now, I thought that they could probably have done a little bit better for Kevin Durant, who, yes, he was on a 1-year deal, expiring contract at $54.7 million, and he is 37. But he's still Kevin Durant, right? So any team that has a chance to win a championship is going to love Kevin Durant. I would have maybe waited a little bit, too. Like, let this thing develop. They decided for whatever reason, we got to trade him before the draft because they wanted a draft pick in this draft. Okay, you got number 10 overall. Good luck with that, I guess.
Oh, wow. Okay, so Bill is giving the Suns, by the way, a B+. John says good luck with that number 10 overall pick in the draft. But, Bill, what do you think the Suns should do with that number 10 overall pick?
Well, I'm not a draft expert, but having heard John talk about it, how about just go draft a shooting guard who can't play defense and just Matt Ishbia this thing from here to the moon? Let's go. I mean, so it really depends. I mean, the right answer is it is a deep draft. And if you have the right scouting department, if you have the right front office, you go out there and you draft the best person who's available because it doesn't matter what they are positionally. You just want to collect talent. The problem becomes if you can't navigate properly the players you bring in free agency and the ones that you, or in trades, the ones you send out. Kevin Durant's an example, Bradley Beal's an example. You are very unlikely to have a highly functioning scouting department that's going to make the right decisions at this sort of spot in the draft where you can find great players, but you really have to know what you're doing. You also have to figure out whether or not you're in a rebuild or not. And John and I discussed this, right? You're going to keep Jalen Green. Presumably he's as John put it earlier on the podcast, the pick of the trade. I understand why you want to keep Devin Booker, but are you trying to hold on to Booker, hope he won't decide he wants out in a year or two because there's not much hope, and you draft someone that's ready now? Or do you just go, you know what, it's rebuild time, we're going to move on from Booker, we're going to get a whole lot in return, we're also going to hope that means Bradley Beal wants to leave, just get him off the books. In that case, maybe with 10 you take a project. So it really depends on the direction they want to go.
Yeah, and as of right now, that potential starting five, Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Grayson Allen, Dillon Brooks, and Nick Richards. But, of course, a lot could change between the time of the show and a couple days from now. Bill, John, we certainly appreciate it, diving deeper into the Kevin Durant trade. And it seems like all roads lead to Houston, at least for this original OKC trio, because James Harden, Russ, KD, they have all now been traded to the Rockets at some point. in their careers. So we'll have to wait and see what Kevin Durant can do in H-Town for the 2025 season.